All right, welcome everybody to the Mountain Strength and Fitness Quick Start Guide to Nutrition Basics. So, our first factor and most important one is energy balance. This is what will make or break your success more than anything else. So, this is basically calories in versus calories out. Now, what are calories? Calories are a unit of measurement, much like centimeters, inches, and degrees. They measure how much energy can be extracted from the food we eat, and the energy we get from our food fuels our body, fuels our activity, and keeps us alive. Calories are also very important for fat loss. In order to lose fat, you got to be in a calorie deficit. It's the number one most important thing, even more than how healthy you eat. You can also overeat healthy foods and gain weight. In order to lose about a pound of fat, you need to eat about 3,500 fewer calories that you burn. If you spread that out over a week, that's a calorie deficit of about 500 calories a day. So for muscle gain, it's at a slower rate than fat. You need to add about 200 to 300 extra calories per day, maximum. Any more than that, you're really risking gaining fat. You can't really force feed muscle gain. Diet's important, but so is weight training. You have to create the stimulus for the muscle gain and then feed it with food and protein. Muscle gain happens at a much slower rate than fat loss. So if you want to minimize the fat gain from being in a calorie surplus and trying to gain muscle, you want to aim to gain about 1 to 2% of your body weight per month. And you can't really force feed it like I mentioned before, and the excess of calories gets stored as fat. So what's the energy balance equation? That is the principle that energy balance equals calories in versus calories out. So calories in come from the food you eat, your total daily energy expenditure. So eating more calories than you burn causes you to gain weight, and then burning more calories than you eat are what cause you to lose weight. And there is no way around this. You can't cheat these things. They are the primary focus of a weight gain or fat loss diet. And then when you eat and burn equal amounts of calories, you just maintain your body weight that way. And this is backed by decades of research. There are a lot of authors and so-called specialists and things like that, people who try to use the marketing theme that calories are a myth and that other things are more important, like insulin, carbs, etc. The decades of scientific research where they actually lock people up and measure everything they eat do not back up any of those claims. There are dozens, if not more, studies where they actually locked up the people so they couldn't lie, fed them what they said they were feeding them, and counted every bite of food, and never once do calorie deficits not cause fat loss. So that calories in is pretty easy. That's the food you eat. Calories out is made up of a few components, so we're going to go through them. So your basal resting metabolic rate are the calories required to keep you alive, keep your organs functioning, etc. Resting energy expenditure is pretty much the same as the BMR. It's when you're laying in bed, calories burned at rest. Thermic effective feeding is the calories you burn while you're digesting food. It does take energy to digest food. Your intestines have to do their thing, and something has to fuel that energy. And then exercise energy expenditure is the calories used for sports and gym workouts, so any kind of high energy stuff. And then non-exercise activity thermogenesis, or NEAT. That's everything else you do that isn't sleep or physical exercise, stuff like walking, standing, fidgeting, etc. So exercise for weight loss. A lot of people try to exercise off the fat, but it's just not a very productive way of doing things. Exercise does burn calories, but not as much as people think. Those cardio machines and activity trackers, they tend to overestimate your calorie burn. They're pretty inaccurate. I've seen numbers as high as 30 or 40% of inaccuracy for them. And then for most people, the amount of exercise they do in the gym only adds up to about 5% of their total daily calorie expenditure, which isn't much. It's a very small chunk, and it's very hard to lose fat or to out-exercise a crappy diet. Okay, however, though, NEAT can contribute to 15% of your TDEE, And it's the one that you can modify the most easily. So you can just walk more than you normally do. And that 15% chunk contributes a lot more to your day than that 5% in the gym. So the other 23 hours that you're not in the gym, you can make the biggest impact on your calorie output by walking more, standing more, etc. And as we get to that now, these are ways to increase your NEAT. You could park your car farther away, walk to the mall, take stairs in front of elevators, go for a walk and listen to a podcast or audiobook. I think this is a great way to learn passively and to keep your mind occupied while you're walking. Use a standing desk if you're an office worker. Take phone calls while standing, pace around, etc. Do some household chores like cleaning, laundry, cooking, etc. And you can use an activity tracker to count your steps, something like a Fitbit or an Apple Watch. And you should aim for about eventually to get to 10,000 steps per day. That puts you in a pretty active category. You can start around 7,000. Wherever you're at now, though, if it's much lower than that, try to increase it by about 2,000 steps per week until you're around that 10,000 range, and you're in good territory there. So this is just a chart of your total daily contribution to TDEE of all the different factors we just talked about and how much each one contributes. As you can see here, NEAT, out of the ones that you can modify, which are basically just NEAT and exercise, NEAT has the greatest modifiable impact. Unless you exercise like an athlete, you're not going to make much of a significant difference over the course of a day, changing that versus changing your NEAT. Okay, so this chart here just gives you an outline of energy balance. I put this up on my Instagram a while ago, and I thought I'd share it here. So all the TDEE stuff is on the right for calories out of the scale. On the left is food and drinks for calories in. So whichever one is higher basically causes weight gain or weight loss. Calories in, if you look on the bottom left, can also be influenced by how much of your food gets properly absorbed. Highly processed foods tend to get better absorbed, which means more calories in. And then things like veggies, fiber, etc. A bit of it goes out in your poop, so you may not absorb 100% of it. But again, these are small percentage differences, but they may add up. And then on the bottom right, we have calories out, and that could be influenced by hormonal deficiencies like thyroid and testosterone. Those can be medicated, and they never once prevent you from losing fat. They just might make your requirements for calories in a little bit lower. And then metabolic adaptation to prolonged dieting. In short, that means if you diet hard for a long time or lose a lot of weight, it can get a bit harder. But again, it's not as big of an increase as people think. And metabolic damage isn't a thing. It's just a temporary adaptation. And either way, the calories in, calories out model still works. It just, it's dynamic. It's a moving target, and things like this affect it. So calorie requirements for fat loss. We're going to get to the quick ways that you can calculate your requirements. If you're working with me as a coaching client, you won't need this, but I'm putting it there in case you decide you want to do your thing later on. You'll have this info to work with, and it gives you a good starting point. It is just a starting point, and you do need to adjust from here. So for sedentary people like office workers, multiply your body weight in pounds by 9 if you're a woman or 10 if you're a man. So there's an example below. 200-pound man times 10 calories is 2,000 calories per day for fat loss. Now, these are just starting points, and you would use some sort of feedback like your scale and pictures and then adjust accordingly. And then the next one we have here is for moderately active people. So if you stand up, we got a teacher there. He stands quite a bit, sits a bit, male men, that kind of thing. They will multiply their body weight by about 11 if you're a woman or 12 if you're a man. So example of a 150-pound woman times 11 pounds is 1,650 calories per day for fat loss. And then we got another example here for active people like construction laborers, landscapers, etc. And there you would use 13 as the multiplier for women and 14 for men. And another example below. Now, if you want to do something a little bit more in depth and use a calculator to hopefully get you to a closer number, although those general guidelines I gave you before do work well, This might help you just get to a closer number. And again, these are all still starting points. No calculator is perfect or 100% accurate, but you can go here to this website, and this is the NIH body weight planner website. You could either punch in that exact URL there or do a Google search for NIH body weight planner. And it is done by one of the leading obesity researchers there is out there. And he's put it in a way that basically lays out the calories that you would need in order to hopefully also account for all your metabolic adaptation as you get lighter from your start weight to your goal weight. So you put in your info, put in your start weight, enter your goal weight. This will all come up on the following screens, and then it'll lay it all out for you, lay out how much rough weight you can expect to lose. And again, it is a starting point. You have to be pretty honest with the activity level settings, etc. But it's just something to look at if you like being a little bit more of a numbers-driven person and a nerd. So that's it for this, guys. That's it for energy balance. And I'll see you in the next presentation for macronutrients. And I hope this was helpful and you enjoyed it. Thank you.